Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another country church in Oxfordshire. This is the Church of All Saints, North Moreton. And I'm here in the Chantry Chapel, St Nicholas's Chapel, built in the early 14th century by the Stapleton family as their chantry. Chantry, of course, the private chapel where masses were said for the repose of the soul of the donor and often their family. It's believed that the craftsmen who worked here had previously worked at Westminster Abbey. This is quite literally then a chapel that is fit for a king. Now I'm here in the chapel partly because it's the lightest part of the building. It's on the south side of the chancel, and partly of course because it is the most important. It's what people come to North Moreton for mostly, and largely because this is the east window, and this is original. This is medieval. We'll have a bit of a closer look shortly. But this is a great example of how a relatively ordinary village church has been built on by the lord of the manor in the Middle Ages, and because part of the whole medieval piety was about saying masses for the souls of the dead, quite often what you'd end up with is an enormous structure like this stuck onto a fairly normal looking church, which is what you've got here, and we'll see that as we look around. So let's make a start. I do apologise, by the way, it's a bit gloomy in the nave because of all this stuff on the south side, so bear that in mind. As usual then, we begin at the west end, in this case the west end of course of the nave. This is, I mean, looking at the building, it's probably 13th century, maybe a bit earlier. Certainly, of course, there is a building here, or there certainly is some 12th century work, because that's a 12th century font there, nice Norman tub, and you've had this aisle then added, and then nice chancel arch there. And as we move here, we've got this rather nice chamber organ. I haven't been able to find any information about the date of it, but it's probably relatively early. So that's that. And we do in fact have date information for the organ. So the organ is, says he looking the other way, Kendall. It's a Kendall organ, there's no date. It's a Kendall instrument. It's very good. Victorian pulpit, of course, and Victorian restoration in general. There is the access to the rood loft. Then above there you can see these, that's where the rood itself, the cross, would have been. There would have been a beam across there, rood beam, with a cross on it and figures of St John and the Virgin Mary on either side. I mentioned, and we had a brief look at the medieval glass. There's a little bit of medieval glass here at the top of the windows. It's normally where you'll find it because it's a bit fiddly. So if you take it out, you've then got to replace it. We have there a face, and then above it there's a corbel indicating, again, there was something supported across there. The chancel has been restored by the Victorians. We have Victorian choir stalls and processional cross, very nice, and stained glass windows. You can see there the reredos with the crucifixion in the mosaic of the crucifixion in between alabaster. On the windowsill here, we have a windowsill piscina. Relatively rare. That's a nice idea, really. And of course, the window now just leads through into the St Nicholas Chapel, and there's the arcade, St Nicholas Chapel. And we look back, and that's the nave. Just say it's relatively gloomy because of a south aisle and chapel. The chapel, because the side windows have no stained glass in them, is nice and light, and that's why we started out in there. We have a Victorian altar table, and you can see there the piscina, and this is the window. and it's absolutely wonderful. Again, fit for a king. You can see either side you would have had these figures, and as we have a look close up at the piscina here, you can see the ball flower decoration. This is typical of the 14th century. Some people thought it may be a genuine flower. Others just it's a bit of fancy to see there. And here's the glass. It's very old. You can see St. Peter there. That would be the raising of Jairus' daughter, I expect. And so here we are. That is the inside. You can just see up there. Bit of a mismatch, but again, it's just, and they've raised the roof line there in the 15th century. So very, very good. And essentially, that is the main attraction here. So that is the inside here at North Moreton. You can just have a look up here at the remains of the rood stair. You can see there would have been a wooden stair here, and then that would be the last bit up into the rood loft. And we have here the war memorial. That's triptych type. You turn around and there's the chapel. There's a piscina where there would have been a side altar. And up there we have more medieval glass crucifixion. And then at the back, modern kitchen and toilets. Important, I have to say. So that is the inside. Let's have a look at the outside next. And so we're outside now at North Moreton. You'll see behind me the church, south side, aisle, porch, tower. And the church here on this side is of banded flint and stone using local materials to very good effect. And as we look at it on the outside, we'll see what the other materials are. Church buildings, effectively, you had two options, and if you were not very, very rich, you really had one option, which was local materials. Now, if the local materials are stone, if you've got local stone, then that works. So there's some red kites making a bit of a noise, and of course they are very lovely birds. But if you have local stone, you use that. But sometimes your local stone isn't very good, and sometimes you have flint, and flint nodules dug out of chalk. And where you have flint, you can make it look very nice, but you can also just have flint rubble. And in the Chilterns and in Norfolk and Suffolk, and parts of Essex, that's what they use. And here we're near enough to the Chilterns to have your local flint supply, but also you've got the local stone. So we have a look around and see what we can see on the outside here. And again, remember, St. Nicholas's Chapel is made by men who worked on Westminster Abbey. So there we go, and as we approach, we can see here that banded flint and stone, and the tower you've got a sort of checkerboard effect of flint and stone on it. And then you have mostly flint for St. Nicholas's Chapel. There's been some restoration in brick, you can see up there. That's just patching, obviously. And enormous great windows just to fill it with light, because that's what you want. Little heads, grotesques carved here and there. It's your 14th century. The 14th century, of course, is the period that's known as decorated when it comes to medieval architecture, and it's because there is the use of a profusion of decoration on surfaces, in particular around windows. So that's the outside there. You can see the frieze up there and there. And then around the back, around the east end, that's the north side abuts the village street, so we can't go too far away from the church on the north side. And so up here we go. You can see here's the village street. And we do have here this, much plainer here, which is normally the case on the north side. You've just got your plain flint rubble here rather than the banded. So the south side is the posh side here basically, and this is the north side, is the less posh side. And there's the north door, not used. It's for the most part they are disused after the Reformation, because they're only really used in the for the exorcism and the baptism. It's a bit cheerful up there. There's faces. So that is at North Moreton Church. Moreton, of course, means the township upon the moor. So there's a lot of places in England called Moreton, just because it's a very generic place name. And there we have, round to the 15th century, West Door, and along here modern bins, and you can see the flint and stone banding there, and the porch is Victorian, is all stone. And so here we are outside. I've chosen the closing image, or the closing location, to be just outside St Nicholas's Chapel. It's an amazing to find in a little village like this, not very far from Didcot. This great big chapel built by people who work on Westminster Abbey, and open every day for visitors. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.